So hi, first of all. The agenda today, as I was saying, is to run through the what, who and when of logging support requests. So we get a nice introduction to it before going into the kind of the basics of it and looking at much more detail of files and audit logs and stuff in the next session next Wednesday. So the what is the workflow, how it all works, and the who is obviously there are different portals for different stakeholders, and we just wanted to show you how all of those fit together. There's internal ones, and many of you will be using public portals as well. So many of you will be using, for example, do it yourself, put your own application forms in. And it's quite interesting, the proportion. I did a couple of analyses of how many people put in using a self-service form their FOI requests, which are obviously very useful out of office hours and things, versus how many people put them in by writing you a letter and making you type all the details in. And I'm delighted to say it's up around a quarter for most places right now, so hopefully that's saving some time. And then obviously there's the when, there's the KPIs of how many have we answered on time, when do we answer them on time, and so on and so forth. So because that's interrelated with lots of other issues like the admin issue of when you put your bank holidays in and so on, some of those things will be dealt with in other sessions, obviously, because we want to keep to the 20 minutes each time. So let's have a look at the workflow first of all. Subject access requests. Somebody asks for information, normally about themselves, but it could be about their child or somebody for whom they're a guardian or for some other reason. Obviously, you would assess whether it's vexatious. You may remember this, that there are people who have names which coincide with star names and Walt Disney characters, and you have to check whether they exist or not. Now, lucky with SARS, you have to check their identity anyway, so you've got a self-check in that. So if somebody's name is Donald Duck, you will find that they have a driving license which says they're Donald Duck, or they will retreat with their tail between their legs. So if Donald Duck actually does exist and he requests and you request POID and he proves it, it may well be that he's asking for information which is so expensive to collect, and it may well be that you have also a nuisance cost for collecting these things. So as Donald Duck goes forward with his SAR, it may be something perfectly reasonable, or it may be something where there's a lot of CCTV and other collection for which you need to charge. I'm not sure what the rules are in your different jurisdictions, but you can pause a request timer while you seek clarification, while you seek POID, and that doesn't come off the actual count. And that's indicated here by some of the statuses. You can obviously name your own statuses. You don't have to call that logged. You could have it started or whatever. You don't have to call it allocated. You may not allocate things to other departments. So you can create all of your own statuses, and you can decide that some of them are pausers and some of them are restarters for the clock. And obviously these green ones would be the ones where you've actually authorized the person. Any payments, if required or if possible, have been collected. You can't just put it on Donald Duck's bill, you'll be aware. Are then done so that you've got to then shoot through. You've got your 30 or so working days or one calendar month, I think, strictly to actually get that through and send the response out. Now, with both this and FOI, some people will actually say that sending the info, I guess most of our clients would say that sending the info constitutes the end of the game for them, and they would like stop the clock and say we've done that to their information commissioner, their respective information commissioners. But some people would probably resend the info if somebody said, that's not what I wanted this, and then avoid, you know, all of the bureaucracy and the time and all the rest of it of a review and appeal. So when you actually close the matter is up to you, but there would be a time that clock would be running. With FOI, we've used reds, blues and greens, green being the clock is still running and you're collating data, and people in different departments, if it's a complex multi-departmental request, will be grabbing stuff for you and finding figures and redacting and so on. And then obviously when you've sent the info, you would finish it and you consider the matter closed. The other reasons that the matter could close, obviously, are that when you've sent in your request as a good burger of demo shiring, in the case of the system we're going to be using, it could be that you find the information on the website and you don't bother, or you just or that somebody at the reception that you've walked into points out to you that it's already on the website and that disappears. It could also be vexatious. It could be that your request requires clarification and you never come back with it, or that it's going to be very expensive and you don't come up with the actual money to pay for it. So normally, if we look through the systems, the most common outcome, however, is that people get their response. I am pressing P instead of next. So there are three to keep it simple, there are three ways to actually put in a request. The first one is manual. Somebody sends you a letter and you have to type in their name and address and then create a request for that person if you haven't seen them before. If ever it's one of your frequent flyers, the local newspaper or something, then you've probably already got their address set in the system, and you would go to that and you would then just create a new request, because it's that same reporter coming back to you again. Now, there's an interesting thing here, which is that there are some frequent flyers of yours who pose as somebody different every time. So for some reason, I've even spoken to these people and I just can't remember. We've been dealing with them for about 10 years. You probably have as well. It's something like, what do they know, I think is, or what do they think they know, or something. And it's a website where you can go in and put in a request, which then arrives at a local authority or a central government department as an anonymous request, and they generate a new email every time. So although it's probably the same Billy Angry asking questions or Robbie Reporter asking questions of you, you don't actually know that it's the same guy. You just get an anonymous request through this website. So the manual addition of that request would probably mean that you have to create a new person each time. We've spoken to these guys because the numbers 2 and number 3 put some automation in for you to be able to make it much quicker and easier for you to use the system. And we've spoken to What Do They Know to say, is there no way that you could just use our API and put the job straight in the system for the authorities concerned, because they'll send out 500 of these things to FOI at this authority, FOI at that authority, and they just said, nah mate, we're not doing any work, we're fighters for freedom of information and we don't do that stuff. So unfortunately, we really did try to do the diplomatic approach and see if we could save you a bit of time. So the second method of getting information in, which obviously works 24/7 when you're not there, is that an applicant can use your self-service form. So if you go on to, and I've picked at random Aberdeenshire's site, and you make an FOI request, you get a form, you fill that in, and I'm delighted to say that then you don't have to fill in these people's name and addresses and their potentially 17-point questions here. So that then goes into somewhere around here. One of these, let's just take this one at random, and you would get a button here when you can click spam. I think most people have this option. So if it's a spam request and it's clearly a school kid saying something vexatious or loony, you can hit a button that says spam and it just goes on the pile of spam and goes off your live requests. But if it's not, then obviously you could then progress to add the activities for people to get the financial answers to the question in finance perhaps, and the information about the tree cutting down from Parks Department and so on and so forth. So the third area is email to IR, and I think the best idea is if I just quickly go through that for us. So keep hitting P instead of N, need to get out of that. So this is the manual one, and of course another reason that you may not be answering the question is exemptions, which we'll deal with later. But the basic idea is you would classify it as a SAR or an EIR or a CDP or whatever, and that would then define the clock. And when we go through the admin system, we'll show you how the clocks are defined and how we were able to, for example, before and after 25th of May 2018, changed the clock so that those running beforehand were running on the old DPA 40 calendar day clocks, and those which started on the 25th started to run on the new monthly calendar clocks. So you put in the information, and the various different fields that you put in will define, for example, who is responsible for answering it, what type of request it is, and hence its clock, the department that it goes to, and of course if there are any exemptions at all which come through. This is the self-service form, which is the second method, and I think I showed you one, the live one from Aberdeenshire. This is probably a screenshot of that, but yours will be very familiar. These are things that we're considering putting in as APIs now, because they can look a little bit kind of, if you put them in an iframe or link them to your site, it's kind of, they have URLs which are not yours, and so we're moving more and more to APIs now, so your web developers can spend a happy few hours messing around and also change the format of them to suit your website. Quite a few of these are saving your admin time, but my absolute favorite is a thing called email to job. And one of two of you will have this, and the idea is that an incoming email that goes to foi@mycouncil.gov arrives and the attended recipient receives it, but also it goes into our message store and it says, has it got a job reference on it? In other words, does it say ABBA IR 1234 or woke IR 6789? In other words, is it an existing job reference? And if it is, it attaches it to the existing job. If it isn't, then it creates a new job. Now, just occasionally it'll create a new job and it'll be spam from somewhere, but you've still got the same spam button, the same mechanism that you do with the other one. But if you're not using this, you should really consider using this, because the human decisions can deal with what few spam ones come in, and obviously it saves an awful lot of admin time because it creates it in the same way as the self-service form does. So then you've got your various different portals. This one here is from an example of an information request manager, and this person is not applicant blind. You can see, he can see that Chris Wood is the person who has actually put in the request. But those are basically allocated to people on their portal, those activities within a job, by using the various multiple application requests. And you can set their deadlines, you can decide who has to answer those, and so on. All of that stuff is audited, and all of it is presented to people on secure portals. So when somebody logs in, you as an administrator, and we will, as a more specifically the systems administrator for your organization, will be able to allocate user rights to decide whether they're applicant blind, whether or not they can see reports, whether they get the information request managers portal, or whether they get an internal admin portal, or whatever. And all of these portals are available with the standard system, although the frequent flyer application portals we've never built, because we've never been able to really define a frequent flyer with you guys. So there's nobody that's come to us and said, we've got this reporter who puts in 20 questions, or our local police force puts in 20 questions a month and they want to see the progress of them on the client portal. But we could easily do that because we have the technology for our ticketing system. Everything goes into one single database, which is securely kept on our servers. All of the reports come from that, and any links to, for example, Excel spreadsheets that you might have. Obviously, the dashboards come from them, all your internal admin screens, and the IRM portal, which is the portal that would be given to the department rep, who would be an expert in that subject matter in your department to be able to see. A thing called Triggerware will then do a lot of the automated emails, but many of the automated emails are semi-automated, and as you know, you can create templates to be able to send people's responses or people's acknowledgements or whatever as well. This is the DIY request portal, and you'll be familiar with the public disclosure log. If I just quickly find that website again, I think I've got a few public disclosure logs here, unless I'm mistaken. If not, I've probably got them in. Here we go. Is it here? No, it's not. Come on. this one here if we're lucky. If not, I can easily find them because I've got them as shortcuts. So this one here is yours, Elaine, which I'm most excited about now. I think it's taken many, many years, and then suddenly one of your Webby heroes came along and just delivered it in no time at all. This is Edinburgh, and then actually, Stuart, if you're there, that's yours. I'm not sure if we ever completed. I know you're building one like this. By the way, you can search and so on. But we have like a standard one which people can plug in, which is pretty ugly. And I know that Wokingham have changed their logo since this one was done, but I'm just showing you as an example. But basically, I know that Wokingham on the process of doing this. I haven't seen Wokingham's new one yet, but I believe it's either done or 99% done, and I just need to update my my URL. So, whoops. So there's all those secure portals, and of course one of them is the dashboards. Now, this one here is an information request management portal, and of course they only get to see the activities that are relevant to them. So tomorrow I'm going to be doing a little bit about the tomorrow in the commercial world we do these every lunchtime for a month, so I've got into the habit of doing that. Next Wednesday we're going to be looking at logging a request right the way through, adding notes, adding documents, the way in which you can check out the actual emails and audit logs. And also I was going to spend a bit of time, and unfortunately I'm just going to finish with this. Somewhere around I have got on here, I believe, yes, somewhere here, one or two different kind of dashboards that we're developing for local authorities. This is one which is coming up for, we call it the Kanban view, and I think this will be quite a good one to bring in for your jobs. So the idea here would be that you would have the various different, logged, clarifying, collecting, redacting, and so on, and then you can just move a job from there to there, and it changes so you can click on the job to work on it, move it from there to there. And I guess the job of the information request, the information governance department is just to move all of these out. And what we were thinking of adding on top is not just the number of jobs here, but to make sure that we've got the number of days, so they go yellow or blue or whatever if they're getting a little bit late. If they should be out of this period if they're a little bit late or whatever. So I think this Kanban thing will be quite a good view. And then in addition to that, we're aiming to use all of the views that you're familiar with, which are the ones that you see every day on your screen, where you've got a list and things go a bit yellow or a bit red, I think, if they are late and so on. So the next one that we're doing is on that number 3 there will be next week, which is I believe the 24th of, so Wednesday the 24th, and it's again 12 till 12:20 like today. Thank you very much indeed for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions, to come off mute, give us a shout. If not, we'll see you next week.